Alright, so we got the 254 spoilers, and we're finally seeing what Kusakabe was able to do against Sukuna, because he was like the last one left, essentially. Because coming off of the previous chapter, Sukuna hit Maki with the Black Flash and pretty much put her down, along with everyone else being benched or dead. It was only Kusakabe who was able to stand up to Sukuna, and it's playing out exactly how we expected it. Not very well for Kusakabe, but at the end of the chapter, somebody shows up, and it's pretty surprising. But we'll get into it, of course. So the chapter begins with Kusakabe using new Shadow style simple domain Evening Moon sword drawing. Sukuna recognizes the technique, but he wonders why Kusakabe is using it against him, who can send flying slashes. So yeah, this is what we saw Kusakabe attempting to do back in the Shibuya arc, but he was like interrupted. So now we're gonna see it for sure, because as Sukuna sends slashes, Kusakabe brushes them off with his katana. He thinks, inside this domain, my cursed energy output is amplified, and Sukuna's technique will get weaker. Kusakabe can add a fully automatic system, which makes him able to attack whatever enters the domain. Even Sukuna praises Kusakabe, saying that his reflexes aren't bad. So this is understandable that Kusakabe would have to do something like this. This is kind of like a manual domain expansion, I suppose, because Kusakabe doesn't have like an innate ability. He kind of just has to use new Shadow style to the best of his abilities, and kind of manipulates it like a Jujutsu toolbox that anyone with a sword essentially can, I guess. And I'll go more into this stuff. I wish Gege would have explored more of this, not just with new Shadow, but with other stuff. But we've actually kind of seen something like this before. Like, if somebody enters his domain, he'll automatically strike them with a sword. It was actually Maki's father using Falling Blossom Emotion, which is also an anti-domain technique, but allowed him to like automatically strike anyone that came into contact with it. And this isn't the first time that Gege has shown paralleling abilities and techniques in this series. Kusakabe has been dealing with Sukuna's slashes by reading his sparks of cursed energy, motion, and just pure intuition, and his domain further eases that work. But just as he was boasting his technique on surviving slashes by reading Sukuna's motion and all, Kusakabe is suddenly hit with another set of slashes which he barely dodges. He realizes that Sukuna activated his curse technique with zero motion. So yeah, Sukuna, you know, the beast of all beasts, he could just activate his curse technique by just not even moving or doing anything, to the point of throwing off Kusakabe's big trump card here. We once again have an interview type flashback where everyone's praising Kusakabe. Nanami calls him an expert swordsman with a wide variety of techniques, and Meimei says Kusakabe is a useful man who could apply himself to any given situation. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are creatives or hobbyists or both. I mean, I know that I am. And you're probably looking for ways to invest in yourself and your goals. Well, you could do that with Skillshare's learning paths, because they can take your creative passion or project to the next level. And it's okay if you're not really sure where to start, because Skillshare designed learning paths to help you get from novice to pro in no time. Skillshare offers a variety of different categories like photography, graphic design, music, cooking, business, marketing, and many more. So the learning path that I recently took was Intro to DSLR Photography, Get Confident and Go Manual, because I seriously needed this, especially being a YouTuber with multiple cameras. I have no idea how to use them. So first you start with Learn the DSLR Fundamentals by Photo Essentials and Justin Bridges. This quickly got me up to speed on all things DSLR. Like, I learned balance, shutter speed, focus, and ISO, which allows me to achieve the perfect exposure every time. Then on to Build Your Photography Kit with Tabitha Park. I was able to learn inside tips for finding the best beginner gear, including cameras, lenses, storage, and tools. Then on to Get Outside and Take Some Pictures with Min T. So now I can finally use my new camera outside and experiment with camera settings, lighting, and composition. And then finally, it's Create Instagram-worthy portraits with Jessica Kobayashi. This class showed me how to make gorgeous portraits for Instagram, as well as how to find a good location, work with poses, and play with light fighting, all things that I wasn't taking advantage of before. So guys, if you're looking to better yourself this year and use a very valuable learning path from Skillshare, check the link in the description, because the first 500 people to use my link will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thanks, guys. Gojo praises Kusakabe for having the simple domain trump card. Gojo says a lot of beginners have to create binding vows to form it, but Kusakabe can establish a simple domain without any binding vows, and its effective range is also huge. Kusakabe senses that Sukuna is about to expand the target of his curse technique to use the world-gutting slash, and immediately expands the range of his simple domain. Even Sukuna is surprised by this. So this is cool on both ends. Sukuna about to just waste Kusakabe with a world cutter, but Kusakabe expanding the range of his simple domain so that he can hit Sukuna as soon as he tries to like speak out the incantation, I suppose. Or just use the hand seals, because he can't just activate that without moving, even though I don't know, he did something to kill Gojo, even though it was off panel, but we don't talk about that. Meimei says that usually when someone uses sword drawing, they lure their opponents in, but Kusakabe extends the range of his simple domain and gets the opponent inside the range, and he can attack whoever enters this domain automatically. Meimei also said this about Kusakabe, that he's the type of sorcerer I would like to bring on a deserted island. Then we see Kusakabe in a double spread, like slicing up Sukuna with a barrage of cuts, because like he was in the range of his domain and he just started lighting him up. And it is slashing Sukuna, but it seems like he's kind of just taking it and it's not really affecting him too much. Nanami on Kusakabe's barrage attack. I don't know anyone who can manage to block all of that. Well, I also know someone who doesn't even need to do a block at all, and that's Gojo with Infinity. Kusakabe's katana breaks after numerous attacks on Sukuna, but he removes his overcoat and starts throwing hands. He might be out of a sword, but he's never out of options. So yeah, his sword broke just slicing Sukuna's flesh, but now he's just going after him with like strikes, which Sukuna is, you know, responding to by blocking and countering and stuff. But you gotta admire Kusakabe's tenacity here, despite knowing that he has real no chance of winning. Kusakabe chases Sukuna, who was sent flying from a kick earlier by him, and Kusakabe thinks, why is he trying so hard again? This isn't like him. But then he realizes it's because he's indebted to Principal Yaga. So he's indebted to Principal Yaga because Yaga like made a cursed corpse of his sister's deceased son, like his nephew, so that Kusakabe's sister would be able to like visit the cursed corpse of her son, so that she still had like will to live, essentially. And I'll go more into that because it happens a few chapters after Shibuya ends, and we go into the death of Yaga, I think. But it also makes me wonder if cursed corpses are going to come back into play here, and I think some of you know where I'm gonna go with that theory. I'll talk way more about it in my chapter review, because you guys know I always go in on those. Hopefully I'll be able to get that out tomorrow morning, so subscribe for that if you haven't already, guys. I know a lot of you guys watch my videos from your recommended or browsing, but you don't subscribe, so it would really help me if we can finally get to 300k on the channel. Thank you, I appreciate it. Gojo, Nanami, and Meimei say the #1 reason why they recommend Kusakabe as the strongest grade 1 sorcerer is because he's super kind. Kusakabe hits the honored one pose as he tells himself that he should stop thinking nonsense because the kids fought with their lives on the line. Kusakabe uses Hazy Moon technique from his new shadow style. It forms an aura which takes the shape of the remaining part of the broken katana. So this is wild. This is like kind of breaking Gege's rules almost of how much you can do with Jujutsu without having an innate or inherent ability. And this is also paralleling to what Maki's father Ogi was able to do, because his curse technique Blazing Courage allowed him to extend like a fire cursed energy blade from his broken katana as well. Even though it's not the same thing, like I said, it's still paralleling to it, which is interesting why Ogi of all people is drawing parallels to Kusakabe here. I guess they're both swordsmen, but aside from that, they don't really have much in common. Kusakabe rushes once again to attack, but Sukuna grabs hold of the sword with just 2 fingers, and he says, "You aimed for my heart where I'm already damaged, huh?" It's so painfully obvious. Then in the very next panel, We see Kusakabe lying on the floor with his chest slashed by Sukuna. Yui immediately arrives to save Kusakabe, but Kusakabe is dead, or as dead as the other characters that we've seen so far. He has like the X-shaped slash across his chest, and he's just lying on the ground. I mean, he's not sliced in half at least, so that's something. And Yui coming to save him just like he has the others, or at least pick him up. I say saving loosely because we still don't know what he's doing with everybody. But now Sukuna, of course, is keen to what's going on with Yui. Before, he wasn't really too bothered by him, but now he's like, you're getting annoying, and he appears behind Yui as he's trying to save Kusakabe. And Sukuna says, you're starting to get annoying. But just as Sukuna was about to kill Yui, Miguel arrives at the battle and rescues Yui instantly. And when Sukuna says he doesn't recognize him, Miguel goes, you must live under a rock for not knowing who I am. These islanders need to sharpen their senses more. So this is really interesting. Miguel has finally shown up, and I say finally because like he was technically still a character out there who wasn't killed. And we haven't seen him for a very, very, very long time. So I'm glad that he's at least here because we need everybody that we can get to fight against Sukuna in the final battle here. So Miguel is this guy that was randomly recruited by Geto. You know, like over a year ago in story time, before all of the Kenjaku stuff, when, you know, Geto was still alive. He recruited him to help him with the whole Night Parade of 100 Demons thing because he needed him to stall Gojo with his curse tool, the black rope, which basically shuts down curse techniques. Like, that's how he was even able to fight against Gojo despite getting destroyed, but still put up a pretty good offense. So much so that after Geto was defeated, Gojo like recruited Miguel, and he actually went on to train Akotsu. So what can Miguel do here against Gojo? Well, your guess is as good as mine. It's possible that he could use his curse technique, which we don't know yet. We don't even know if he has an innate ability since he was mainly relying on his curse tool. But I'll go way more into all of the stuff with Miguel and his possible curse technique, what his curse tool is, if he still has it, what he can actually do ultimately here, as well as like that other theory that I was talking about in my chapter review. So again, please subscribe for that if you haven't already. And yeah, if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.